Here's how to make an open lily from pipe cleaners. Grab your pipe cleaners, you're going to need 15 colored ones for this, and start with 3 full length. I'm going to cut the 3 full length with either wire cutters or scissors in half, and that will give you 6 halves of the pipe cleaners. Set 3 of them aside, you'll use those later, and grab the 3 halves. This is going to start your first petal. Take them and fold them in half so that you're creating a curve at the top. To connect them, you're going to take a full-length pipe cleaner in the same color and then thread that through the curve so that they're hanging off of it like a swing. And you're going to bend it in half upwards like this. Now you have to connect them all together. So where they meet in the middle there, you're going to grab that joint and twist it really tight. I like to do it twice. 1, 2, like that. And that's going to be the point where the tip of your petal is. So you have these 6 little pipe cleaners hanging off here now. You're going to untangle them almost like hair and line them all up nice and even like this. That's the inside of the petal. And then fold down the long ones to form the outside edge of your petal. There we go. That point at the top, you can pinch it to make a little pointier like a lily petal. And then the only thing you have to do is at the end, see how they're all somewhat uneven? They're not going to be exact. So you have to pinch them down where the shortest layer is and twist that too to connect the bottom. You can take one of the long ends and then just twist that around as well. And those are the steps to create a flower petal out of pipe cleaners. I'm going to bend it away from me a little bit like this to create the curve. And you're going to do this 6 more times for an open lily. Don't forget that you already have those 3 halves from the first step of the first petal, so all you need is 1 more pipe cleaner to make a second petal and so on. So to make 6 petals total, you should only need 15 pipe cleaners, even though it's technically 4 pipe cleaners per petal. So there's my second one, and here I made 6. When you line them all up then in a circle, it creates the flower shape. But before we connect them together, let's trim off some of these long ends. We do want one of the long ends to connect to our stem, but we don't want it to be super chunky, so cut off any excess. Once you have that finished, you can finally connect them all together. I'm using my glue gun for this, and I'm lining them up around in a circle, but making sure they're lined up where that twist is at the bottom of each petal. Each petal should fan out, and then when you have them all together, that creates your lily shape. Now you could leave it like that, but let's do a simple center out of a full-length yellow pipe cleaner. These are the little yellow things that stick out of the center. First, do a zigzag pattern starting from one end. They're each about 3/4 of an inch, and I did 4 of them with a long end sticking off. Each of the little curves then, you're going to take your fingers and pinch them so they turn into 1 little point each. And then when you have them all like that, fold them in half so it's 2 and 2. And you see how that can form the center of your flower? Take the long end and just twist it around the bottom to connect them all. And then you can use your fingers to form them however you want. Now that long end, you can just stick into the center of your flower then. It's up to you if you glue it, but it kind of sticks in there by itself. So that forms your lily. Isn't that pretty? Now you can do whatever you want with this lily shape, but let me show you how to connect it to a stem and add leaves. So first, let's do the leaf shape. We're taking 2 full-length green pipe cleaners and fold them in half so you have 2 curves like this. And you're going to link them together, similar to how we make the petal. Where the 2 meet, you're going to grab that joint and twist it twice to connect them. So it almost forms an X shape. To form the leaf, take the 2 bottom ones and make them nice and tight next to each other, and take the 2 top ones and form it down to make the outside edge of the leaf. So see, that forms the main section. You can pinch the tip to make it pointy, and I've even seen some people take their scissors and trim off some of the fuzz, making it even pointier. So that's another way you can really shape some of these things depending on how realistic you want to make it. Now at the bottom, I'm going to keep my leaf pretty long and take one of the ends and wrap it around to form the base of the leaf, just like that. Now we also don't want a whole bunch of chunkiness down at the bottom here, so I'm going to trim off any excess, but I left a little bit hanging off so that we can connect it to a stem. So here I made 2 leaves just so we can make 1 full flower. Okay, so here's where it gets fun. Grab something for a stem. I'm using floral wire for this, and then take your flower and stick it on the top. You can glue it in for a little bit more stability, but I am going to take those extra little parts that we left hanging off our petals and wrap those around. Now to start, I'm going to use just some cheap masking tape to connect them by making it tight around the top part of my flower, and then just twisting around and around so that it goes down along on an angle. See how I have it tilted to the right a little bit, and then that goes down past the excess from your petals and then onto the floral wire. When you're ready to connect your leaves then, take some of the excess from your leaf, line it up where you stopped, and then just continue wrapping, and that will connect your leaves. I'm going to wrap a few more times and do the same thing with the other leaf so that it connects on the opposite side. Now, I'm using masking tape because I bought floral tape for this that was green, and the tape I got was from Amazon. A lot of the reviews said that it wasn't sticky enough, and I thought, oh, it couldn't be that bad. It really was. Like, it did not stick at all. So I decided to use the tape first to connect everything, and then use the non-sticky floral tape I got because I liked the color, and then wrap that around over top. And you know what? I'm okay with that because the masking tape made the floral wire just a little bit chunkier and made it easier to wrap. If you get good floral tape that's green, or even use green tape, it would save you a step. So learn from my mistake, read the reviews, and make sure you get sticky tape. So I'm wrapping this tape all the way around just to make sure it matches, and because it didn't stick, I actually had to glue it at the bottom. How sad is that? But it's pretty. It looks like a flower, perfect for spring. Here's how to make the daisy style pipe cleaner flower, and I think it's actually the easiest one. Take 5 pipe cleaners in the color you want, and with each full-length pipe cleaner, you're going to cut it in half. We're going to make bunches of petals with the halves by just folding it to look like a little heart by making 2 curves and pinching it down at the bottom for the point. So you're going to take that point and twist it twice nice and tight to connect them, and then pinch the curves at the top. Doesn't that look like 2 little petals? And you're going to repeat this about 9 to 10 more times depending on how big you want your flower to be. So there's my heart. Also kind of looks like a McDonald's M. Make sure to pinch the curves and then seal it off at the bottom by twisting it twice. There we go. So once you have all of your petal bunches, you have to make a center to connect them to. To do this, I'm taking a full-length dark brown pipe cleaner, and starting on one end, just start twisting it into a circle like this. It's a little spiral, nice and tight. And if you want a bigger center, you could take a second pipe cleaner and connect it to the side and just keep going until you have it the size you want. I'm just using one full length one. These are 12-inch. And then when you get to the end of it, you're going to have this loose end. What you're going to do is just tuck it in behind the outside layer, and that's going to stick it behind your center so that you can't see it from the front. So then take your hot glue and just one dot at a time, you can start adding your petal bunches. Try to line them all up so the little twist you made to seal them off is behind the center and all the little curves are sticking out. Pack them in there, pushing them around until you really can't fit any more. So I really packed mine in there with, I think I had 9 bunches total. And there's my flower. Then I like to take the petals and just kind of pinch them upwards a little bit so it looks like they're growing up to the sun and not super flat. You can just form it however you want then. There we go. Now there is a difference to this flower compared to the other ones. It actually doesn't have anything to connect to a stem. So I'm taking a full-length green pipe cleaner and twisting it a little bit like we did for the center of the flower. But I'm leaving an end off, and then I'm going to push it down through the center and pull. So that's going to create a little green connecting point for my flower with a little excess that can connect to the stem. Almost looks like a stem itself. So see, we're gonna glue that to the bottom of the flower, and there we go. That's how we're going to connect it to the stem. Let's just cut off a little bit so there's not quite as much. There we go. Now let's make some leaves. I'm going to make smaller leaves this time, so taking one full pipe cleaner, cut it in half, and then we're going to fold each of those in half so they look like this. We're going to connect them by bringing them together. It almost looks like an X at that point where they meet. Then you're going to twist it twice, nice and tight, and then bring them all together so they're flat, pulling the ones that are upwards down towards the sides and pinch the point. There's my little leaf. And then all those extra ends there, we're just going to twist nice and tight again at the bottom to seal it. See how that's a mini version of the other leaves? It's just easier to make smaller ones with only one pipe cleaner instead of two, so you're not wasting as much excess. Now let's connect it to the stem. Take your flower and line it up on the top of your floral wire or whatever you're using for a stem. And I'm using my masking tape. I'm just making it tight around the base of the flower, twisting it and then putting it at an angle so that I can wrap it around down to where I want the leaf to be. And then when you're ready to add the leaf, line up the excess on the leaf on the stem so you can wrap the tape around and just keep going down the stem, adding your leaves as you go. I made 2 leaves for this flower too. I'm going to keep wrapping all the way down. I am going to make it a little shorter because this floral wire is really long. And I do want it to match, so I'm going to take the floral tape I got. That did not work, but I still want my flower to be green, so I'm wrapping it over top of the masking tape. If you do get good green floral tape that sticks, use that, but you could use things like green painter's tape. You could wrap a green pipe cleaners around it, green crepe paper. Use what you have to make it green. So I'm wrapping mine all the way down to the bottom, and this tape was so unsticky I actually had to glue it, but it worked. Look how cute that is. And that's how you make a daisy flower, or it even kind of looks like a sunflower from pipe cleaners. Here's how to make the tulip version of the pipe cleaner flowers. Grab your pipe cleaners. You're only going to need 10 pipe cleaners for this flower. And to make a petal, we're going to do it similar to how we did the open lily. Take 3 full pipe cleaners and cut them in half so you have 3 and 3. Set 3 of the halves aside. You'll use those later. And we're going to form the petal in the same way we did the open lily flower. Fold the 3 halves in half like this to create a curve, and then take a full pipe cleaner and thread it through. You're going to have the 3 hanging off in the middle and have the 2 longer ends at the top. And you have to connect them. So at that joint there, you're going to twist it. 1, 2. I like to do it twice, nice and tight. Now you're going to have 6 little ends hanging off there. You want to line them up so they're untangled and flat. That forms the inside of your petal. And then take the 2 longer ends and fold them down on the sides. That forms the outside edge of your petal. You want to pinch the tip again to make it pointy. And then to form the bottom, see how they're all uneven? You're just going to pinch it and then take one of the long ends and wrap it around nice and tight to form the bottom, connecting them all together. There's your petal shape. Now the difference between this and the open lily is you're going to bend it back away from you so it creates a curve, and then take the tip and bend it towards you so it's going the opposite direction. That's the only difference between this petal shape and the one I showed you in the open lily. And because it's a closed flower for the tulip, you only need 4 petals at least. You can do more layers, but 4 makes it nice and closed. When you have all your petals finished, don't forget to cut off the loose ends, but leave one end so that you can connect it to the stem later. And then we can put them all together with the hot glue. Now, another difference between this and the open lily is you want to make sure you're gluing them up a little bit more on the sides. In the open lily, they fan out on the sides because it's wider. This one you want closed, so still line them up at the bottom where that knot is, but you're going to glue the side up a little bit further so it stays closed. See that? I do have room for one more petal, but I want to make it nice and tight, so we're going to just close it and squeeze it in there a little bit. There's the closed tulip. Now the inside is a little plain. You can't really see it, so you don't have to add anything in there, but what you could do is add a center like we did with the open lily. I made it the exact same way, but I just cut off the end so I can glue it right in the center. Now we have to make some leaves again, so take 2 full-length green pipe cleaners. I'm using a darker green this time. Fold them both in half and then link them together like this. Take the joint in the middle and twist it twice, nice and tight, similar how we did the petals. And then form the two so they're flat next to each other, and take the top two and fold it down, making the point of the leaf, and the four hanging down make the main part of your leaf. Don't forget to pinch it at the top to make it pointy. And then you decide how far you want it to go down. I'm going to make mine a little bit shorter than I did before and just twist one of the long ends around to form the bottom. We're going to trim off any excess, leaving one extra point down at the bottom to connect to your stem. And finally, we can put it all together. Now put a little dot of glue on your stem and then put your flower right on top. Take your tape and just line it up underneath your flower on that excess and start wrapping it. I have my tape tilted to the right so it'll just keep going down the stem, past the excess and onto the wire. And then when you're ready, take your leaf, see that excess, just put it right lined up with your tape, and you keep wrapping. I'm gonna wrap my leaf there, go a few more times around, and then I can connect my other leaf. Once you have everything together, then you can wrap it as many times as you want. I'm going to cut mine a little bit shorter because this floral wire is pretty long. And it looks pretty good. It looks like a tulip. The only thing is I do want to make it green. Even though my tape didn't work, I'm just going to wrap it around the masking tape, and that makes it match. If you don't have green tape, you could use green pipe cleaners and wrap them around really tight, or even paint it green. That's up to you. Use what you have. There's so many different ways you can make these. Here's how to make the lilac version of the pipe cleaner flowers. Take your pipe cleaners. I have a whole handful of different shades of purple. And to make the petals, we're going to fold a full length 1.5, they're 12-inch, cut it, and then you're going to cut the halves again so you have 4 quarters. Now this is going to be the simplest petal shape. We're going to fold the quarter in half so that there's a curve, pinch that curve, and then the 2 loose ends you're going to twist to connect them. That's how easy it is. And then you can bend it a little bit with your finger to make a curve. I did this a whole bunch of times with all the different shades of purple, and it's really up to you how many petals you want to make depending on how big you want your lilac flower to be. So I made a whole handful of them right here. Now the biggest difference between this flower and the other style flowers we've done is instead of connecting them to each other, we're going to glue them directly to the floral wire. I'm starting with my lightest shade of purple, and where the knot is, I glued it to the tip of the wire. And on the opposite side, I'm going to do another one so it hides the top of the wire and creates the tip of your lilac. On the sides where they meet, a little bit below where they start, I'm going to take my next shade of purple and glue that there as well. See how that starts an alternating pattern? I'm going to glue another one of that second shade of purple and keep gluing them together in those creases where the different shades meet. So even though this petal shape may be the easiest to make, I would say this flower is probably the most difficult to put together, or at least it takes the most patience. Keep going. As I go down my lilac, I'm starting to add the darker shades of purple. And then what I did is I ended with my darkest shade of purple at the very bottom and did a couple layers of that. So really, it's up to you what combination of colors you want to use. And there's how mine turned out. So now that the flowers are already connected to the wire, all we have to do is take our tape and start wrapping. So I'm taking just regular masking tape, wrap it around the excess of your pipe cleaners, and then start wrapping it down your wire. When you're ready to add your leaves, I just made smaller leaves like I did in the daisy flower. If you missed that tutorial, I will add that to the description of this video as well. Just line it up when you're ready and wrap around the excess for that leaf. I'm going to do them a little closer together, so I wrapped around twice on one and then I added the other one. Then just keep wrapping down your wire until you get to the end. There it is. Now I want my stem to be green, so I'm taking some floral tape then, and then I'm just wrapping that around the masking tape. If you have good sticky floral tape, you may not have to do the masking tape, but mine did not stick at all, so I just went over as a second layer, and now it matches my leaves. Isn't that pretty? I had so much fun making these, and I hope you will too. Happy spring, everybody, and follow me for more.